right, everybody, it's still Steve here, hanging out at FigFest, having a great time, getting to play some awesome indie games, and right now I'm with Bennett, who's one of the creators behind the game Depths of Sanity with Bomb Shelter Games. So Bennett, how are you doing today?
I am doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So I'm checking out Depths of Sanity. Looks awesome. Another underwater game. This is actually the second underwater game I played here. I don't know if you checked out Swim Sanity over there. What was kind of the inspiration behind making Depths of Sanity, and what was the stylistic choices almost behind the design of the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. Quick shout out to Swim Sanity. We were recently at Play NYC, which is a playcrafting event in New York, and Swim Sanity was actually right across from us. So we love those guys. They're great. So underwater Metroidvania is kind of the game approach that we have here, and really the inspiration for it kind of came from nobody's done that before. We wanted to make a Metroidvania. We're huge Metroidvania type game fans. Axiom Verge is another big favorite. Super Metroid, all those types of games. Hollow Knight most recently. We're fans of that format, but we really kind of wanted to turn it on its head. And we originally kind of thought about doing a top-down approach to Metroid. And it kind of turned into this idea of, well, underwater, submarine, and 360 degrees of motion. That's kind of where the inspiration came from. Very early on, there was a version of this game in our head that took place in space. Same sort of, piloting a spacecraft rather than a seacraft. But the underwater themes and just the wealth of just myth and stories about the ocean really sort of was very inviting for us in making this sort of compelling and monster-driven experience that we're putting together.
Yeah, because with that, using the ocean as your backdrop, you actually get to use a lot of just the sea creatures that already exist, whereas if you're going in space, it's a lot more of the unknown because who knows what's out there. So it kind of gives you a little bit more variety to kind of create these different bosses and these different enemies that you have to kind of avoid. What has been the process like? Like, how long have you been working on this particular game?
So I was scrolling through our Twitter feed recently to really, it feels like it's been a while. We started this, I think the first form of this game that we had was made in 2016, end of 2016. So we've been working on it for just coming up on 2 years now. We've been taking it to events like BFig and Playcrafting, which I mentioned earlier. We were at PAX Rising back in Boston most recently this year, which was excellent. And really, over this 2 years that we've been working on it, it's been all about getting it out in players' hands immediately. Since it's been in pre-alpha, we've been having people play it, letting us know, is it fun? Does this work? Does that work? To really get the feedback early on to make sure the game feels good before we go and make the rest of the game behind it. And that's been the sort of core approach that we've had over that 2-year span. Just refining and changing things, tweaking controls. What people are playing here at BFig today is very different than what we rolled out the first time 2 years ago when we started bringing the game out there. And we're really happy about that. It's very player-driven to make sure the game plays fun. And we've kind of made the shift recently in the past couple of months from this refining and developing the controls and the gameplay itself and moving into the next stage, which is building the worlds around it, developing the bosses, and putting the story together. We still have about a year to go, hopefully just a year, maybe a year and a little bit of change. We're looking at 2019 for a release, probably the final months of 2019, October, November, maybe holiday season for it. But that's kind of what we're shooting for.
That's pretty great because especially with this holiday season, it's already pretty packed. So, I mean, you got to carve out your own little niche so that way you can kind of get some eyes on your product. Now, in terms of the feedback that you've been getting from the people who have been playing it now for the past 2 years, what has the feedback been like from the beginning when you first were rolling the game out now compared to 2 years later when you're kind of going into that stretch run, putting the finishing touches on everything as you try to prepare for a 2019 release? What are some of the differences in that feedback that you've received over the course of these past couple of years?
Yeah, that's a great question because feedback early on was a lot more specific about this right here doesn't work. The controls very early on started out very, very floaty. We want to give you this feeling that you're in a submarine, but earlier on it just felt like Luigi on an ice level. It just doesn't work. You got no control whatsoever. We changed that up, we refined it a lot, and eventually we got to a point where you had so much precision pinpoint action control that it felt more like a bullet hell, and we didn't have the enemies to sort of mirror that. So that a lot of the feedback we were getting early on was like, are the weapons different enough? Are they dynamic enough? Are the enemies you are interacting with, are they too difficult? Are they too easy? Are the controls fun to move around with? Does just small concepts, things like the currents that we use to prevent your movement or the dark areas, do those actually work, or are those just kind of ideas that we thought were kind of cool and in practice not so much? And the feedback that we got that was positive, we kept going in those directions. When people told us that like this weapon was fun, we tried to get into dig down into like what about it was fun to use, what about it wasn't so fun, so we could really hone in on that. But a lot of the feedback has gone into the control schemes, and also just getting some early bugs and squashing those immediately before we start building the rest of the game around a broken set of systems. After when you have it behind a closed door for long enough, you get too good at it. And we just wanted to see what other people did when we just throw a controller at them, and also trying to make the game kind of intuitive. Early on, people were kind of like, what do I do here? How does this work? How do I make things happen? And we get far fewer questions on that now. We get very little feedback about the controls these days outside of, oh, it's fun, or like, ooh, I like how it feels like I'm underwater. We don't get the, it feels too floaty. I feel like I can't, unwieldy used to be an old criticism that we don't get a lot anymore, because we kind of tried to make sure that we make it feel floaty, but the right kind of way. Floaty like a submarine, not floaty like Luigi on ice.
That's fantastic. So it does sound like the feedback has been great in terms of the progress. So it shows that you're fixing the things that aren't working the right way, and you're trying just to make it a great experience for everybody involved. So are you planning on being at PAX East this year by any chance?
We're still on the fence about that. Like I said, we've been out there trying to get as much feedback as we can, and the type of feedback we've been getting now has shifted from, oh, this needs to change, oh, I don't like this, oh, this is kind of cool, to when can I buy it? We're running into this issue now where we don't have the game ready, and it's still got a year until it's ready. So bringing it out to like PAX and other events like that prematurely, people are going to be looking to buy it, and we worry they might forget about us. We still need to figure out whether or not it's going to be worthwhile for us to go to PAX. We'll probably throw our head in the ring for PAX Rising again, and if we get selected, you'll definitely see us there. But if we don't, we might take a year off and put that time into making sure that the levels that we're developing are different and engaging, and kind of explore the different controls we have in different ways. So we might take a bit of a break from the scene for a little bit and really kind of develop a little bit in secret. So that when the game comes out, everybody hasn't played it already at conventions and things like that, so we can do a little bit of closed door development for a little while. So we'll see.
For sure. No, it makes total sense, because honestly, what good is going to all these events if the game's not done? So you got to focus on that part. So in the meantime, where can people find you? What's your website? Where can they find you on social media? Where are we going to learn more about Depths of Sanity and Bomb Shelter Games?
Yeah, so you can go to bombsheltergames.com or depthsofsanity.com, and that's the best way to find out what's going on right now. In fact, both of those locations, you can download a demo of the game we have at BFIG right now. And anytime we do put together a new vertical slice that we're going to put out either for another festival or bring to a show floor, we update that demo so you can download it and play what we're showcasing elsewhere. You can follow us on Twitter at bomb_shelter, or on Instagram at bomb.shelter.games. We post a lot of information there, especially Twitter, about either what we're doing right now or when we're at a convention like this. And at any of those locations, you can sign up for our mailing list. And we barely use that, but we will use that once we start getting ready for release, or once we start opening up the beta to have people come and maybe help us test.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Bennett. Everybody out there, keep your eyes out for Depths of Sanity. Hopefully next year is when the release date is coming, so think about late 2019. But in the meantime, go check them out on their website, social media, and get your hands on the demo of the game. For everything, thank you so much for your time today, Bennett. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.